A billionaire walks into a courtroom. The judge laughs. Reporters roll their eyes. Everyone thinks he's about to crash and burn. But then, Elon Musk opens his mouth, and what he says next doesn't just change the case, it turns the entire courtroom upside down. This is the jaw-dropping story of how Elon flipped the script and turned doubt into domination. It all started with a tweet. No surprise there. After all, when Elon Musk tweets, the world listens. But this time, that tweet didn't just cause headlines. It caused a courtroom war. The story really takes off when Musk was called into court over a massive civil lawsuit. We're not talking about a parking ticket or a small complaint here. We're talking big money, big stakes, and even bigger reputations on the line. The lawsuit was filed by a group of investors, some of them major players in the finance world. They claimed they had lost millions, all because of one of Musk's now infamous posts on social media. According to them, his words were misleading, irresponsible, and reckless. Their argument? That Musk's message influenced market prices to rise temporarily and then crash, leaving them in the dust with empty pockets. The internet was buzzing. Was this the moment the world would finally see Elon Musk held legally accountable for his tweets? Or was this just another attempt to silence a billionaire visionary who liked to speak his mind? As day one of the trial began, the courtroom was absolutely packed. Reporters were elbow to elbow in the press box. Legal experts showed up from across the country. Some Twitter personalities even showed up in person, hoping to witness the drama unfold. And yes, even a few A-list celebrities were spotted in the back rows, quietly observing. The buzz wasn't just about the case. It was about the man. Elon Musk, the CEO of Tesla, SpaceX, and more, was standing trial. Not for a tech failure, not for a business collapse, but for his words, for his impact, for his power. To the plaintiff's lawyers, this was open and shut. They portrayed Musk as reckless, someone with no filter who felt untouchable, an arrogant billionaire who believed he could shape markets with just 280 characters. In court, they presented charts, graphs, and expert testimony trying to prove a single idea, that Musk's tweet wasn't just reckless, it was damaging. They used Musk's previous interviews against him, highlighted questionable public statements, and made it clear they believed he thought he was above the law. But here's where things got really interesting. Because while the investors had a legal army behind them, Elon walked in solo at first. No flashy-intorafe, no legal showboating. Dressed in a simple, perfectly tailored black suit with a crisp white shirt, Elon walked into the courtroom, calm, composed, and as confident as ever. To some, it seemed like he was already losing. From his first few responses, Musk didn't use the kind of lawyer-approved language most defendants do. Instead, he explained things the way Elon Musk always does, like an engineer. Linear thinking, logic-based arguments. It was pure Musk, efficient but maybe not courtroom-friendly. And then came the laugh. At one point during the proceeding, Elon was explaining the reasoning behind his public statements. Not in legal jargon, but in engineering metaphors. He even compared the situation to a model used in aerospace risk calculations, using systems logic that, frankly, went over a few heads in the room. And right in the middle of that, the judge sighed, sat back slightly, and smiled. "Mr. Musk," the judge said, "this isn't a rocket science lab. It's a courtroom." Cue the laughter. The courtroom chuckled. A few jurors smiled. The plaintiff's team smirked with satisfaction. It was a clear jab, an attempt to cut Elon down a peg by reminding him that his brilliance didn't matter here. That in this space, he wasn't the boss, the law was. Even social media blew up, right after the quote leaked. Memes popped up. Elon gets schooled. Rocket Boy meets reality. But here's the twist. Musk didn't flinch. Not even a blink. Not a single word back. Instead, he did what only Elon Musk does in moments of tension. He smirked. Not arrogantly. Not dismissively. But as if to say, all right, game on. That moment became a turning point, not in the legal sense, yet but in the atmosphere. Elon didn't roar or retaliate or lay into anyone. He just stayed calm. And if you've ever followed Musk, you know that when he's quiet, that's when something big is coming. But at that point in the trial, it really did look like Musk was losing. The plaintiff side had lined up a team of experts. They laid out financial models, timeline breakdowns, psychological impacts on investors, the whole playbook. By contrast, Elon, known for interrupting interviewers, zigzagging through topics, and thinking out loud, seemed restrained. And while his ideas were sharp, the traditional courtroom format made them feel flat. Legal analysts started predicting a huge settlement. Some even said the case could lead to Musk avoiding public market commentary permanently, or worse, regulatory restrictions across his companies. The judge wasn't exactly hiding his skepticism either. Throughout the hearing, he frequently questioned Musk's responses, cut off long explanations, and reminded him more than once that simplicity was key in a court of law. But what nobody noticed was that Musk wasn't randomly responding. He was studying, learning the rhythm, watching the strategies, reading the reactions, and in typical Elon fashion, he was preparing something. And when it came, it would flip the entire courtroom on its head. But for now, the stage was set. Elon Musk underestimated. Judges laughing. Investors pushing hard. Experts closing in. The media already writing headlines like Musk crumbles in court and tech titan meets his match. But what no one knew was that this was just Act 1. And the bombshell? It hadn't even dropped yet. It was day 3 of the trial. By then, most people believed they knew where this was heading. Elon Musk, though brilliant, wasn't a lawyer. And this courtroom, filled with finely sharpened legal minds, wasn't exactly his domain. The opposing side seemed well ahead, backed by high-powered attorneys, seasoned legal experts, and a binder full of sharply edited reports. But just when everyone thought Elon was outmatched, something surprising happened. Elon Musk was allowed to cross-examine an expert witness. Wait, Elon Musk, cross-examining? He wasn't part of the legal team, yet by law, as a defendant who'd chosen to testify, he was allowed to ask questions directly, if the court permitted, and the judge allowed it. That moment instantly changed the energy in the room. The witness was a respected financial expert from a top institution. With a polished demeanor and dozens of charts behind him, he explained in confident tones how Elon's tweet had misled investors and caused a substantial loss. He spoke of volatility, investor behaviors, and how trillions in market cap could be altered by the smallest spike of public confidence. And on paper, it sounded convincing. But then, Elon took the floor. There was no fanfare. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't pace around like a TV lawyer. He simply stood, buttoned his jacket, and walked forward. And then, in the most casual voice imaginable, he asked, "Can you explain the initial assumption behind your first predictive model?" The expert blinked, thought for a moment, gave an answer, standard, well-rehearsed. Musk nodded, then asked again, "So, if your foundational model is based on the assumption that all outside influence weighed equally into investor reaction, how do you control for algorithmic trading bots that respond to unrelated variables?" Pause. You could hear the pin drop on the courtroom table. The expert stuttered slightly. He wasn't prepared for that angle. Not from the defendant himself. He gave a shaky answer. Not wrong, but vague. And Elon? He kept going. Your model doesn't differentiate between my tweet and a sharp change in oil futures, yet it attributes causation solely to my statement. Isn't that correlation, not causation? Another pause. The plaintiff's attorney stood up. Objection. The judge looked over his glasses, slightly amused but weary. He's asking questions based on the testimony given. Overruled. Continue. And so Elon continued like a surgeon. He didn't launch a personal attack. He didn't grandstand. He asked questions. Smart ones. Simple, clean, irrefutable. He started by dismantling the language in the report. You used the word reckless in connection with my tweet. Is that a legal standard or your own emotional interpretation? The witness clarified it was colloquial. So, should I take your report as data-driven or opinion-based? The witness tried to pivot, but the question lingered in the air like a fog. Then Elon pulled up a chart, one the witness himself had presented. With a laser pointer in hand, Elon zoomed in on a particular spike. You attribute this movement entirely to my tweet, correct? Yes. the expert replied. But this spike occurred 3 minutes before my tweet was posted. Wouldn't that suggest another factor might be involved? Silence. The room collectively leaned forward. Legal analysts later described it as watching a genius reverse engineer a courtroom argument in real time. Some compared it to watching a hacker dissect a firewall with nothing but raw intelligence and curiosity. Musk didn't stop there. He pulled up academic research on market behavior. He referenced footnotes in the witnesses' own citations. He even quoted previous cases involving public statements by CEOs, including one where the ruling had sided against investor claims. The judge, who just 2 days earlier had laughed at Musk's explanations, was now taking detailed notes, fully engaged. The opposing lawyer stood up again. Objection, Your Honor. Mr. Musk is not a qualified attorney. But the judge held up his hand. He's referencing materials provided in the plaintiff's own filings. It's within scope. Musk, unfazed, walked over to the monitor and pulled up a final point. A spreadsheet, pulled directly from the expert's financial model. He pointed to a row of data labeled Market Confidence Spike. These tags account for all predictive correlation in your conclusion, correct? Yes, said the expert, defensive now. Musk zoomed in, then turned to the jury. But right here, see this time frame? This exact data pattern also occurred 3 months ago. I didn't tweet anything then. So if the same result happened without my influence, is the model flawed, or is the case against me just speculative? Boom. Total silence. The expert looked to the lawyers, unsure how to respond. 30 minutes earlier, it had seemed like Elon Musk was on defense. Now, he wasn't defending anymore. He was exposing, and the entire courtroom knew it. The plaintiff's team stopped smiling. The smirks were gone. The tone had shifted from arrogance to anxiety. For 15 straight minutes, Elon Musk, without raising his voice, without spinning his story, had gone toe-to-toe with the legal system using logic, data, and unshakable calm. He had just dissected an expert witness's argument, without ever directly attacking him. Just questions. Simple, unstoppable questions that unraveled an argument over $1 billion in claims. When Musk finally returned to his seat, the courtroom remained dead silent. Not from confusion or boredom, but awe. No one was laughing now. Then it happened. A moment so sharp, so unexpected, so powerful, it would later be called by media outlets around the world. The Musk maneuver. Let's rewind. After Elon's devastating cross-examination of the financial expert, the courtroom was buzzing. Suspicion now hung in the air, and for the first time, even neutral observers were doubting the strength of the case against him. But no one, not even the sharpest journalists in the room, was ready for what came next. Just before the court was about to break for the afternoon, Elon's lead attorney politely asked the judge for permission to present a new exhibit. It was unexpected. There had been no mention of a surprise submission in the pretrial schedules. Naturally, the plaintiff's side objected immediately. Your Honor, we haven't reviewed this document. This is a last-minute ambush. But the defense was calm, prepared. The documents were legally obtained during discovery, Musk's attorney replied. They're internal communications from the plaintiff's own firms. We simply hadn't deemed them necessary until recent testimony made them relevant. The courtroom hushed. The judge gave a nod, and with a click, the lights dimmed slightly, and a large screen lit up. There, projected in massive white text on a blue background, was an email, dated 2 days before Musk's controversial tweet. It read, "Given current market indicators and media narratives, we should anticipate a 10 to 12% swing by midweek, regardless of external statements. Most of this volatility is already priced in." The audience tilted forward. Jurors squinted. Reporters started typing furiously. Then came email number 2. This one was from a senior portfolio manager within the plaintiff's own investment group. "We've already modeled scenarios where tech volatility will spike midweek. Plan B assumes drop even with no new announcements from key influencers." With no new announcements. Let that sink in. The plaintiffs had sued Elon Musk for allegedly causing a dip in their investments due to a single statement. But here, in black and white, were their own words, predicting the crash before the tweet even existed. And that's when Elon stood up. Not his lawyer, Elon himself. He calmly walked to the front of the room, adjusted the digital display, and pointed directly to the quote on the screen. Then he turned to the jury and said, "If their own strategy predicted the crash," he said coolly, "how did my words cause it?" Boom. The courtroom didn't know what to do with itself. The tension snapped like a rubber band. A collective gasp echoed across the crowd. One of the jurors leaned to his neighbor as if to confirm what they just saw. Even the normally stone-faced judge raised a brow, leaned back, and began scribbling furious notes on the legal pad in front of him. It wasn't just about the emails. It was about what they meant. They weren't simply embarrassing. They didn't just contradict the plaintiff's claims. They destroyed the core of the lawsuit. They showed that the entire premise, that Musk's words triggered an unpredictable loss, had a giant hole through the center. If the firms had already prepared for the market to swing, and if they had already protected themselves using internal risk models, then their losses weren't the result of Elon's tweet, but of calculated risk. In other words, they were trying to blame Musk for a gamble they already knew might go south. And now, the whole courtroom knew it too. The lead attorney for the plaintiffs stood up slowly, his confidence now replaced with nervous energy. He shuffled through papers, clearly searching for a comeback. Then he turned to the judge. "We request a recess." The judge nodded, but his voice came out more serious now. "Granted, court will reconvene in 1 hour. Consider this your opportunity to clarify your position. We'll discuss admissibility and impeachment afterwards. Translation: fix your story. Fast." Meanwhile, Elon strolled back to his seat and sat down without a word. People watching the case online immediately went wild. Within minutes, hashtags like #MuskManeuver, #CourtroomClapback, and #LegalBoom trended worldwide on social media platforms. Legal analysts jumped on news programs with commentary like, "I've never seen something like that in 30 years. This is no longer about tweets. This is about the credibility of the entire lawsuit. Musk just dropped a courtroom bomb, and the smoke hasn't even cleared yet." Even tech outlets, ironically the same ones that had criticized Musk just days earlier, were now forced to reevaluate. CNBC ran the headline, "Legal Earthquake. Internal emails may clear Musk in high-stakes trial." Business Insider published, "He called their bluff. Musk's team unleashes strategic masterstroke in court." What was supposed to be Elon's downfall was quickly turning into one of the most mesmerizing legal turnarounds in modern memory. And it also sent a loud message. This wasn't about a billionaire being untouchable. This was about facts, proof, clarity. And Elon Musk had just turned a courtroom full of critics into a stage for truth. No matter what you thought of him before that day, one thing became unmistakably clear. You could laugh at Elon Musk if you wanted to, but he'd probably end up laughing last. When court resumed the next day, something was different. It was subtle, but unmistakable. Gone was the casual smirk from the plaintiff's bench. Gone were the scribbled notes meant to look impressive but lack substance. Gone was the slight chuckle the judge let out whenever Elon tried to bring complex reasoning into a courtroom. Instead, what filled the room was something unmistakably new. Respect. The once chuckling judge, now leaning forward, pen poised, fully focused. The jury? Engaged, alert, some of them nodding as Elon or his lawyer spoke. The air? Tense, but with a kind of brilliance flickering underneath it. Like the courtroom now realized they weren't just watching a lawsuit. They were witnessing a moment. Even the courtroom reporters, once eager to take Musk's eccentricities and spin clickbait, were now hesitating. Because what they saw yesterday had not been the wild ramblings of a tech billionaire, but the focused, calculated mental offense of a man who owned the facts. And now, after all the noise, it was time for closing statements. The opposing team went first. They tried to regroup, reframe the issue as one of responsibility, one of ethical leadership. Their lawyers gave a well-worded speech, reminding the jury of Elon's influence and his responsibility to the markets. It was solid, but it didn't hit like it should have. Because in the minds of most people in that courtroom, That responsibility cuts both ways. Yes, Musk may have reach, but the plaintiffs had access to just as much information. And now that it had been revealed through their own internal emails that they had anticipated the volatility they were suing over, well, it just didn't pack the same punch. It was Musk's legal team's turn. But instead of the attorney delivering a dramatic closing speech, they turned to the judge and made a surprising request. They wanted Elon himself to deliver the close. A murmur swept through the room. The judge paused for a moment, then nodded. What followed wasn't a speech. It was a statement straight from the heart of Elon's mind. He didn't yell. He didn't grandstand. Instead, he stood beside the podium, hands clasped, and for the next 10 minutes walked the jury through the why. Why he spoke out. Why he refuses to let fear dictate innovation. Why markets need both caution and courage. Why what happened here, not in the news, not on Twitter, but here in this courtroom, mattered more than any tweet could have. He walked through simple truths. How markets are designed around risk. How nobody sues when tweets make stocks rise, but when they fall, suddenly the need for a scapegoat appears. And most importantly, how narrative must never outweigh facts. Then came a mic drop. Musk turned toward the judge and said with clarity, I came here not to win the news cycle, but to stand on principle. If saying less is what makes people safe, then fine. But don't confuse silence with truth. You can only innovate by speaking out, and you can only lead by accepting risk. The courtroom fell still. Even those who had doubted him from the beginning now found themselves thinking twice. And then, as quietly and confidently as he began, Elon stepped back. He nodded to his team and returned to his seat. Nothing flashy. No dramatic mic drop moment. Just facts, delivered calmly, powerfully, undeniably. The trial concluded, and within days, the ruling finally came in. The case was dismissed, but not for the reason most people assumed. This wasn't about Elon escaping justice or simply having better lawyers. The court didn't declare him perfect. The judge didn't say Musk's tweets were harmless. Instead, the case was dismissed because of a simple and powerful truth. The plaintiffs failed to show direct causation. Why? Because Musk had done something rare in a legal setting. He didn't try to erase the past. He explained it better than anyone else could. He used their own documents. He exposed their assumptions. He proved that they knew what could happen and chose to spin the narrative only after facing loss. And most impressively, he didn't just win the case. He won the courtroom, and maybe something even bigger. Back-end index pointing right, he won back the narrative. Let's rewind just 1 week before the verdict. Every headline was against him. Reckless CEO faces legal fire. Elon Musk could lose billions in courtroom reckoning. Social media may finally catch up to tech billionaire. And now, CNBC. Musk outmaneuvers legal challenge. Case dismissed. Bloomberg. Courtroom victory proves Musk still holds the power of the narrative. Even media critics from former hostile outlets admitted, when it comes to precision, strategy, and clarity, Musk gave one of the most effective on-stand performances in modern corporate history. What happened inside that courtroom wasn't just a legal win. It was a reset, a reminder from a man who runs companies that launch rockets and wire the brain, that words do matter. But so does context. So does truth. So does preparation. And more importantly, so does standing your ground when everyone else wants to see you fall. Musk went into that courtroom with the world against him. He walked out several pounds lighter in legal baggage, but a lot heavier in credibility. So what's the lesson here? What can we actually learn from the echo of a courtroom where a billionaire was once laughed at, only to leave it in stunned silence? Whether you love him or can't stand him, Elon Musk doesn't quit. He doesn't run when doubted. He doesn't crumble under pressure. And he definitely doesn't give up just because someone in a robe or a suit decides they've already figured him out. He walks into a room where the odds are stacked against him. A room where people aren't just skeptical, they're waiting for him to fail. A room where someone in authority literally laughed out loud. But instead of reacting emotionally, he listened. He watched. He calculated. And then he flipped the script. Not with volume. Not with power plays. Not even with celebrity charm. But with calm confidence, sharp thinking, and relentless logic. He didn't yell. He didn't demand. He didn't play victim. Instead, he asked the right questions. He exposed cracks others missed. He stood tall, delivered his point, and let truth do the talking. And that is where this story becomes something far bigger than Elon Musk. Because honestly, it doesn't take being a billionaire to learn from that. You don't need a space program or stockholders or a legal army to apply what happened in that courtroom to your own life. In business, in class, at work, or just in everyday conversations, we all face those moments. Moments where people underestimate us. We're dismissed, ignored, talked over. Where someone laughs, out loud or under their breath, at the very idea of us being competent, capable, or intelligent. You know the vibe. You walk into a meeting and get mistaken for the intern. You speak up, and someone waves off your idea before you finish the sentence. You try something bold, and all you hear is, "Who do you think you are?" But as Musk showed us in that courtroom, what matters most isn't the skepticism. You'll always face that. What matters is how you respond to it. You can panic. You can lash out. You can shrink down. Or you can study the room like Musk did. Listen, learn, prepare. And when your moment comes, you can deliver, not in emotion, but with mastery. Because when you respond with facts, with clarity, and with unshakable presence, something powerful happens. Laughter turns to silence, and silence turns into respect. That's not just a legal strategy. That's a life strategy. Let's be honest. Most moments that define who we are don't happen on grand stages or in front of cameras. They happen in small, tense rooms, board meetings, interviews, classrooms, family dinners, Zoom calls. And in those moments, you'll be tempted to prove yourself loudly, to clap back, to defend, to match their energy and show them. But look at Musk. He gave a masterclass in playing the long game. He didn't care about winning the moment. He focused on winning the truth. And guess what? That's how real credibility is built. Not overnight, not in bursts, but through consistency, logic, and self-belief when everyone around you thinks you're out of your depth. And that's another lesson here. Confidence isn't noise. It's clarity. Even when Elon was being mocked, he didn't let it throw him off. Because he knew what he knew. He trusted his data. He trusted his thinking. And above all, he trusted himself. In your life, you're going to have moments where people question your worth, your intelligence, your potential, your seriousness. Don't panic. Don't play to them. Play to your truth. And yeah, build that truth with preparation, with time spent learning, researching, sharpening. Because when the moment comes, you won't need to shout. You'll just speak with calm certainty like Musk did in that courtroom. And speaking of that courtroom, remember this. He didn't walk in with the upper hand. He didn't win with charm or loopholes. He didn't even walk away with an apology. What he did walk away with was something better. He dismantled the doubt. And over time, the judge respected him. The jury reconsidered him. The public, many of whom had already written him off as some cocky tech guy, began to see the genius behind the noise. All because he stayed focused. All because he refused to fight fire with fire, and instead came equipped with cold, precise clarity. That's what changed the game. So, the next time someone underestimates you, the next time someone calls your dream crazy, the next time someone laughs when you speak up, you don't need to shout back. You just need to stay calm. Stay smart. Sharpen your facts. Control the moment. Because when you do, you'll step into that same mindset Musk had in court. Not trying to impress. Not trying to win people over. Just laying out the truth and letting it speak for itself. That's how you turn doubt into data, laughter into silence, and silence into respect. If this story hit you in the gut or gave you chills, drop a fire in the comments. And if you're someone who's ever been underestimated, play button like this video. Speech balloon, tell your story below. And don't forget to hit subscribe, because on this channel, we bring you the untold stories, the real moments behind the legends, and the life lessons buried in headlines. Stay strong, stay sharp, and remember, when they doubt you, don't throw noise. Throw truth. Clapperboard, thanks for watching.